Welcome to News on NTA International. I'm Nancy Godi Angunihu, and on sign language is Shegun Ajayi. First, the headlines. Evacuation of stranded Nigerians from troubled Sudan commences as NEMA refutes allegation of abandonment. 64 countries' representatives converge on Abuja for 2023 Global African Diaspora Symposium on Development. Plus, National Economic Council asks federal government to put on hold the June deadline for fuel subsidy removal. We begin with situation in Sudan. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, says it will take at least 4 days to complete evacuation of Nigerians from Sudan. Director General of the agency in an interview says 13 buses with 60 people will leave Sudan daily. Let's now join Musa Baba Aliyu for details of this and other developing stories from Sudan.
From Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, to Aswan, Egyptian border is about 1,000 kilometers. That is the distance to be covered by these buses daily. Each will be carrying 60 students, including the elderly and women. So far, 150 of them in 10 buses are already on their way to Egypt, as at the time of this report. The Director General National Emergency Management Agency, Ahmed Mustafa Habib, says adequate arrangement has been put in place for the protection and security of Nigerians along transitway. He says arrangement has also been completed with the Nigerian-based airline, Air Peace, that will airlift the Nigerians from Egypt free of charge. Multiple nations have scrambled to evacuate embassy staff and citizens by road, air and sea from Sudan, where fighting between the army and paramilitaries has killed hundreds and led to acute shortages of water, food, medicine and fuel.
It is important that the world stands with the people of Sudan to provide the resources that are required for humanitarian organizations to ramp up emergency response and humanitarian assistance to the people in need. One life lost in Sudan is a life too many.
A Royal Air Morocco flight carrying 136 Moroccan nationals evacuated from Sudan arrived at Casablanca International Airport this Thursday. This is coming as Chinese Navy ships sent to rescue citizens from the conflict-hit Sudan have also evacuated nationals from 5 other countries. The first batch of 678 people evacuated by the Chinese team arrived at port in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, by ship on Thursday morning. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
In the meantime, the National Emergency Management Agency and the Nigerian Diaspora Commission have reacted to a trending video on the purported abandonment of Nigerians along Sudan-Egypt road. NEMA told NTA that one of the 13 buses on convoy with Nigerians developed fault and others pulled over to wait for the vehicle to be fixed. The agency therefore refuted the claim that the bus drivers protested lack of payment. The federal government is spending $1.2 million on the evacuation exercise. And joining us now via Zoom from Cairo is the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, Mustafa Habib Ahmed, to speak more on the evacuation exercise. Hello, sir.
Good evening.
Yes. Now, can you give an insight into the true state of things about the evacuation exercise?
Sorry, I couldn't get that. Can you repeat that again?
Okay, sir. Take it again. Now, can you give us an insight into the true situation of things about the evacuation exercise?
Okay, thank you. From yesterday, 13 buses have departed Khartoum. As we speak now, 11 buses have arrived. We are waiting 2 more buses. 2 more buses went to a different border town, which was not approved for them to pass through. So we have some few challenges we're going through from the Egyptian side. From the Sudanese side. Right now, 11 buses, as I mentioned earlier, confirmed are on ground. We have 2 more buses there at the border town. We are trying to get them across. We have embassy staffs of Egyptian embassy have all been moved to Aswan. Aswan is a state in Egypt.
Okay.
That's where the airlift will be carried out. Airfields, we just got
Okay.
approval for airfields to proceed and come and do the airlift. So we are, well, hopefully tomorrow, airlift will commence tomorrow. They're bringing in an aircraft with a capacity of about 300.
Okay. Now,
So another challenge that we are facing
okay.
within Sudan, the company with and the embassy, you know, we cannot assess or do any profiling there. So we can only engage through the embassy in Sudan, which engage a transportation company. They engaged a transportation company and they came up with a figure of 30,000 per bus, which we have paid, and the arrangement was to pay 400,000, and at the execution, final execution of the program, we are going to pay 800,000. And now the company is saying, because the situation is getting worse, they're trying to increase what they're charging, which we are disagreeing with them because we have already entered an agreement with them. But hopefully, we are not leaving anybody behind. We expected to bring in 5,000. Other countries are evacuating maybe 150, 170, 200 or something like that. We are talking of 5,000, and we have settlement of Nigeria of over 5 million people. And the people that are settling in Sudan now want to come back also to Nigeria, which is another big challenge to us.
Now, how can you bring everybody back with all these people are indicating that are indicating interest in returning to Nigeria?
Well, it's a very big challenge because the vehicles are not available. That's the first challenge. What we have gotten so far, we are doing it in batches, which is to do 12, 13 buses a day. We have done 13 buses, and we're going to continue with 10 buses tomorrow. That's how we're going to do it in batches. But what we are paid for is for 40 buses. We are paid for 40 buses, which we have advanced them 400,000. So we believe, hopefully, we're looking at the next 2, 3, 4 days to complete this operation. By the grace of God, I believe all Nigerians will help us with prayers. We're going to bring everybody home.
You have given the assurance that everybody will be brought back home.
Yes.
And then the relatives of those that are yet to come back are now settled with the promise that everybody will return home. Now, DG Nema.
Everybody is coming back home.
Thank you.
Everybody will bring it back. That's the directives.
Nigerians are looking forward to that. Thank you so much, DG Nema, for updating us with the Nigerian government's efforts at bringing back its citizens safely from war-ravaged Sudan.
We're all moving to Aswan tomorrow morning with the ambassador. We already have a team. I'm moving with the ambassador of Nigerian ambassador to Egypt and the defense attaché. We're moving to Aswan tomorrow morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Meanwhile, British nationals who want to leave Sudan have been told now is time to move by the Foreign Secretary. James cleverly said the UK government cannot know what will happen when the ceasefire ends on Thursday at midnight. He said people have been able to reach the airfield north of capital Khartoum in good order for evacuation with help from the Sudanese army. The UK has airlifted 536 people from the East African country. However, that is a fraction of the thousands of British nationals thought to be in the country. Mr. Cleverly said he was not able to give an exact number of how many British citizens were currently in Sudan, but urged those who wanted to leave to do so before the ceasefire ends.
make their way to the airport today. We will continue to engage with our international partners to attempt to extend the ceasefire and bring a permanent end to the violence.
Sudanese have continued to seek refuge in crowded camps in Chad. Adebola Brooksley Sunday reports.
Deski Abdullahi Bedim is one of the thousands of Sudanese seeking safety across the border in Chad as fighting engulfs our homeland. Deski said she knew her family would have to flee their home in Sudan when armed men knocked at their door.
Armed men came to our compound and asked us to leave before we became collateral victims. Under threat, we left in a hurry on a donkey to come here. I got separated from my 7 children and I can't find them. We have seen parents massacred by Arab militias while they have done nothing. We are victims of gratuitous barbarism that we do not understand.
Meanwhile, United Nations Refugee Agency UNHCR said about 20,000 refugees have so far made the journey, and continued fighting is expected to trigger more displacements. UNHCR representative in Chad, Laura Locastro, said the agency expects about 100,000 refugees to flee to Chad from Sudan in a worst-case scenario.
While we have also received reports of people starting to arrive in Egypt, exact numbers are not available at this point. Some of the population movements we expect to observe in the coming days include outflows of new Sudanese refugees to neighboring countries, returns of refugees who are being hosted by Sudan, and movements of other refugees being hosted by Sudan to other neighboring countries.
The wave of arrival, observers say, places an additional burden on Chad's meager resources, which were already strained by hosting 400,000 refugees who fled earlier conflicts in Sudan. Adebola Brooksley Sunday, NTA News.
The Sudanese capital, Khartoum, is suffering from severe shortages of fuel and electricity as business operations have been affected, with key transport routes disrupted following the deadly armed conflict. Adebola Brooksley Sunday once more reports.
Gas stations in the capital city, Khartoum, have been closed and are facing serious supply problems. The violent clashes have worsened the shortage situation as companies cannot operate normally, while transportation routes have also been disrupted. Frequent power outages have blighted the city, disrupting service delivery and leaving families without power. Some stores and restaurants along the streets have also been closed due to the conflicts.
Not more than 4 or 5 days. More than that, there will be no more supplies left. We're trying to provide vegetables and fruit, so every day we get out to get vegetables and fruits. But we've run out of grains, canned food, flour and sugar.
Meanwhile, violent clashes have made stories of escape and exodus becoming more and more common among local residents, among which include 12-year-old Khaled Nimri. We didn't have food and no one could go outside. The water was cut off and the rapid support forces became very close to the building and the clashes increased around us. We tried to hide and people were fleeing. There were bullets flying and smoke everywhere, he said. Nimri was trapped in his father's workplace for 3 days and cut off from electricity and water due to the clashes. He eventually managed to escape the besieged building with the adults and shared his inconceivable experience. Sudan has been witnessing deadly armed clashes between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces in Khartoum and other areas since April 15. Adebola Brooksley Sunday, NTA News.
Away from happenings in Sudan to enhance operations in the power sector in Africa, utility regulators on the continent have identified power system flexibility, leveraging regional electricity trade, accessing global climate financing, regulatory independence, and integrating least cost long-term financing.
To enhance national dialogue on regulatory issues, specifically in the areas of electricity, water and natural gas in Africa, especially Ghana, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission (PURC) organized its second regulatory conversation. The discussion was on the theme, the regulator in the era of economic turbulence and the energy transition, lessons from the past and a guide for the future. The regulators say energy issues are country-specific and should be driven by country-specific policy and interventions. They identified that tariffs must engender efficiency and innovation and not to be restrictive to the point of discouraging the adoption of new business models and technologies. The players advocated power sector reforms as African countries work towards transitioning to net zero carbon emission. The Director of Energy Financial Solutions, Policy and Regulations with the African Development Bank Group, Mr. Wale Shonibari, said regulatory issues surrounding regulatory independence should be tackled.
Most of Africa's public utilities are in financial distress. They struggle to cover their operating costs and cannot finance the required capital expenditure to maintain their operations, thus forcing them to rely on public subsidies.
During a panel discussion, the Executive Secretary of the PURC, Dr. Ishmael Aka, said regulatory independence is needed to help in decision-making.
You don't operate within a vacuum. You don't operate, you are not just a regulator alone. But you should be independent, have some autonomy in terms of your processes and your decisions. But in all these things, because your decisions affect other people, affect the sector, and can lead to so many other things, it is very important to engage.
In most of the parts of the continent, maybe we are transiting from darkness because even the pollutant energy is not there. So it should be country specific, and I agree with him that we should look at our resources and let it be country specific.
Because that's the issue that you raised, which I really believe very strongly, regional integration. The interconnectivity in the continent, we really need to work on that.
The conversation brought together chief executives of the electricity regulatory institutions of Kenya, Namibia, South Africa, Uganda, Mozambique, and some regulatory experts from the University of Cape Town, South Africa, to discuss contemporary utility regulatory matters in the era of energy transition.
This is the news on NTA International. We take a break.
They are real. They are the drama queens of Abuja.
If you're not real, you will be consumed, okay?
Stop calling me mom joke. Your body won't shoot at me.
We have an intruder in the house. The meter of the disgrace is rising. You're old.
Who said I need deliverance? Ha! Deliverance!
It wasn't me. She got me on the Wasn't me. Arafat pulled me aside for a chat. No.
The Real Housewives of Abuja, only on Showmax.
To watch this and other Showmax originals, simply add Showmax to your DSTV subscription using the My DSTV app.
Latest entrant, latest technology. Welcome to Entel 4G LTE Advanced and experience super fast internet access today. Visit entel.com.ng or any of our stores in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt to get started. Entel. Live more.
Nigeria and government of Caribbean and Pacific states have signed a memorandum of understanding on the establishment of a mechanism for the promotion and enlargement of international technical cooperation relation. Charles Alpha reports that the pact was sealed in Abuja.
Nigeria has taken giant steps not only in the South-South cooperation, but in the rest of the Caribbean states. Its depth of technical cooperation in Africa is heavily relied on. Reason, the Secretary-General Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, Georges Robelo Chikoti, is signing the MOU, which he said will benefit both countries if they cooperate.
I believe that the signing of this MOU is a commitment that we are making for the OECPS, for Nigeria, and for the future in terms of cooperation.
The agreement also includes establishment of Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific Secretariat, which the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, who signed the MOU on behalf of the federal government, believes would encourage ample exchange of information that will help improve technical cooperation.
We're happy that the mechanism of the institution is still very strong, and for us in Africa still very relevant for
The document will also enable members to engage on diaspora issues with the aim of finding solutions to mutual problems. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
About 64 countries are attending 2023 Global African Diaspora Symposium in Abuja to deliberate on the implementation of effective policies that will advance the contributions of African diasporans to economic and social development and proffer solutions to Africa's most pressing issues. Here again is Charles Alpha with the report.
Africa, in the eyes of the countries represented here, will lead the next industrial revolution if its huge resources and human advantageous position can be harnessed. They believe the continent possesses what it takes to solve its own problems. The African diaspora plays a significant role in the economic development of their countries, and the two-day International Symposium 2023 seeks to advance this course with focus on science and technology, agriculture, industries, health, education, and many more.
We're all gathered as African diaspora. It's very important that we work together as Africa. So why can't we as Africans just tap into these enormous opportunities and potentials?
There is the need to build up effective partnership on African diaspora and broadening cooperation among all the stakeholders.
President Muhammadu Buhari, in a message to the symposium, said there has been a deliberate foreign and national initiatives to harness the potential of Nigerians wherever they are, and will continue to do so.
It is imperative for Africans at home and in the diaspora to connect and forge a common front, and also lay down strategic frameworks to address the challenges arising in the new world emerging order.
Our states recognize that diaspora communities are the greatest offshore asset and the critical force in achieving sustainable development. ECOWAS recognizes that members of the diaspora, both at individual and collective levels, are important actors in our integration and development projects.
The event, Building Stronger Connections Between Africa and the Global Diaspora, is organized by the African Diaspora Alliance, the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, and the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
By leveraging the power of information, diplomacy and economic operations, non-kinetic military operations help to minimize collateral damage and civilian casualties while still achieving strategic objectives. These are the words of Chief of Defense Staff General Lucky Rabu at a two-day workshop on use of broadcasting in complementing the military in conflict mitigation and conflict management. Hamman Jabani reports.
The workshop aims at enhancing broadcasters' competencies in conflict management, conceptualization of the new program on public safety and security, creation of sustainable channels for promotion of civil-military relations, and broadcasting strategy engagement in winning hearts and minds of the population, among others. Chief of Defense Staff represented said the military have been contending with fighting terrorism and other non-state actors in the last decade. In order to tackle and subdue the security challenges in the country, several military operations and exercises have been launched by the Nigerian Armed Forces since 2009, and adopted non-kinetic approach by developing a policy framework and national action plan for preventing and countering violent extremism.
They can be used to build relationships with local populations, which is critical for achieving long-term stability and security in conflict zones.
And the media has so much to do, so much, even questioning those in power, which we've not been able to do. succinctly. We need to find a way of asking questions of everybody.
Of broadcasting, I have no doubt that a lot of values will be added at the end of the day.
Is to actually work hand in hand, some kind of useful partnership with the military security agencies to ensure that they achieve their mandate by ensuring that there's peace and security in the polity.
It is hoped that the training will assist in bringing synergy between the armed forces of Nigeria and the media in curtailing the various security challenges in the country. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
And in furtherance of sustained efforts at reinvigorating the fighting spirit of the nation's troops, new national and regimental colors were formally presented to all the formations of the Nigerian Army to inculcate in them greater pride in service delivery. This was at the Trooping and Presentation of Colors Parade 2023, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
Suitably clad in full ceremonial dress of the military with an insignia of a field marshal, President Muhammadu Buhari was the cynosure of all eyes as he arrives Eagle Square for the Nigerian Army Trooping and Presentation of Colors Parade 2023. At the colorful, remarkable and significant event witnessed by two former Nigerian leaders, General Yakubu Gowon and Goodluck Jonathan, 53 units of the Nigerian Army have their old colors formally retired. President Muhammadu Buhari presented new colors to the formations, including the 28 new units established and operationalized since the last ceremony was held in 2007. Apart from symbolizing blessing and respect, colors as rallying points for troops in the military significantly promote cohesion, esprit de corps, pride and loyalty.
Bless and sanctify these colors and make them the symbol of the protection of our territorial integrity. We beseech you to grant them victory over the enemy.
For President Muhammadu Buhari, the event provides an opportunity to commend the armed forces and other security agencies for their exceptional performances in the task of securing the country.
It is with a great mixture of joy and pride that I wish to also proudly highlight that we have made remarkable progress in the fight against insurgents, militants, oil bunkers, kidnappers, and other criminal elements in the country.
He attributed this to the remarkable transformation of the military achieved by his administration, making it one of the best in Africa in terms of fighting power.
The quantum of platforms induced into the army since 2015 had enabled troops to take the battle to the terrorists and criminals, particularly in the northeast, resulting in the recapture of territories hitherto held by the insurgents. The efforts of the troops leading to unprecedented successes was evident in the increased number of neutralized insurgents and those that voluntarily surrendered alongside their families.
President Buhari used the opportunity to appreciate Nigerians for their perseverance, stating that the country will continue to rely on support from all segments of the society for sustainable peace and security. In Abuja, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
That's it on the news. On behalf of Shegun Ajayi, who's been on sign language, thanks for watching.